The night was unnaturally quiet, the only sound the occasional gust of wind rattling the windows. Inside, the Turner family huddled around the warmth of the fireplace. The storm had been raging for hours, and the power had flickered out earlier, leaving the house in near darkness except for the faint glow of a few candles. It was the kind of night that felt like something was about to happen. Aiden, the youngest of the family, stood by the window, his small hands pressed against the glass. His wide, innocent eyes scanned the yard outside, where the trees swayed wildly in the wind. He was too young to understand the danger a storm like this could bring, but his instincts told him that something was wrong. "Mom, Dad, do you hear that?" Aiden's voice was soft, almost a whisper. Elena, his mother, looked over at him. "What is it, sweetheart?" She walked over and crouched beside him, her gaze following his towards the darkness outside. Aiden's small finger pointed toward the front porch. "There's something out there," he said, his voice trembling with a mix of fear and curiosity. Elena frowned. The storm had already made the neighborhood eerily quiet, and the thought of anyone, or anything, out there seemed impossible. "Maybe it's just the wind," she suggested, trying to reassure him. But Aiden shook his head, his eyes locked on the porch. "No, Mommy, it's a dog. I can see its shadow." Marcus, Aiden's father, entered the room from the kitchen, wiping his hands on a dish towel. "What's going on?" he asked. "Aiden says he saw something outside," Elena replied, her voice filled with concern. Without hesitation, Marcus made his way to the door, glancing out the small window by the front door. He paused, a slight furrow in his brow. "I'll check it out," he said, grabbing his jacket. Aiden's eyes were wide, his tiny hand clutching his mother's sleeve. "Be careful, Daddy," he whispered, his voice filled with an emotion far beyond his years. Marcus opened the door, the wind howling as he stepped out into the storm. The light from the hallway cast a pale glow on the porch, and there, collapsed in the middle of the doormat, was a German shepherd. The dog's fur was matted with dirt and rain, and its breathing was shallow. Its eyes flickered weakly as it looked up at Marcus. The sight sent a chill down his spine. "Elena, get a blanket," Marcus called out urgently, kneeling beside the dog. The animal's body trembled in the cold, its paws struggling to hold itself up. Elena rushed to the door, holding a blanket. "What happened to him?" she asked, her voice full of concern. "I don't know," Marcus said, gently lifting the dog's head. "But he's in bad shape. We need to get him inside." They quickly helped the dog into the warmth of the house, carefully laying him down on the living room rug. The storm outside howled as if in protest, but inside, the warmth of the fireplace enveloped them. As the family worked to clean the dog's wounds, Aiden approached with cautious steps. His young face was full of worry. "Mommy, Daddy, I think he came here for a reason." Marcus looked at Aiden with a puzzled expression. "What do you mean, Aiden?" Aiden's eyes met the dog's, his voice soft but filled with conviction. "I think he was watching over Mommy. He's been protecting her while she jogs." Elena's heart skipped a beat. "What do you mean, Aiden? How could he have been watching me?" Her voice was a mixture of disbelief and concern. Aiden, without a hint of hesitation, responded with the certainty only a child could possess. "He saw you every morning when you ran. He's been keeping you safe." Elena exchanged a look with Marcus. There was something unsettling about what Aiden had just said. How could a dog, especially one in this condition, have been watching over her for so long? The family spent the next few hours tending to the injured dog. They cleaned the wounds, applied ointment, and wrapped the dog in warm blankets. As Marcus worked on bandaging the dog's leg, Aiden stood beside him, watching intently. "Do you think he'll be okay?" Aiden asked, his voice quiet. "I hope so, buddy," Marcus replied, his hand gently petting the dog's head. "But he's been through a lot." The dog, Rex, seemed to respond to Aiden's presence, his eyes following the boy with an understanding that went beyond mere animal instinct. "You're safe now," Aiden whispered, his voice soothing. Aiden's innocent words left Marcus and Elena both unsettled and fascinated. How could a child understand something so deep, so beyond his years? But as the night wore on, the strange connection between Aiden and Rex only grew stronger. The next day, Marcus went to the local animal shelter to inquire about Rex's background. The staff mentioned that Rex had belonged to an elderly man named Henry Walker, a war veteran who had recently passed away. Henry had lived alone for many years, with only Rex as his companion. Aiden was right, Marcus muttered to himself. Rex had been watching over Elena. But there was more to the story. The shelter workers mentioned that Henry had been a quiet man, but there were rumors circulating about his past. No one knew much about him, except that he'd been very protective of Rex. And then, just as suddenly as he had appeared in the neighborhood, Henry was gone. When Marcus mentioned this to Aiden, the young boy's eyes lit up. "I told you, Daddy. Rex has been protecting Mommy for a long time. And he's here to finish something for Henry." "Finish something?" Marcus asked, his voice filled with skepticism but also curiosity. Aiden nodded seriously. "Yes, Rex is guarding a secret Henry left behind." As Marcus and Elena tried to piece together the mystery of Henry's death, Aiden's strange insight into Rex's past began to make them wonder just how much more there was to this story. The storm had passed, but a new kind of tension had entered their lives. One that would lead them down a path they could never have expected. And so, the family stood at the crossroads of mystery and danger, with a dog who had seemingly come from nowhere and a child whose innocent words hinted at a much deeper connection. The first chapter of their adventure had begun, and they had no idea just how far it would take them. As days passed, the bond between Aiden and Rex grew stronger. Every morning, Aiden would run to the living room, where Rex had made a bed on the rug, his body still weary but now slowly healing. Aiden would sit beside the dog, talking to him in a soft, soothing voice. "Good morning, Rex," Aiden would say each day. "I know you're feeling better now. You don't have to be scared anymore." Rex would lift his head, his tired eyes meeting Aiden's. It was as if the dog understood every word the child said. Aiden never seemed to tire of talking to him. It became clear to everyone in the Turner household that Aiden had a special connection with Rex. The dog would follow Aiden around the house, staying close, as if it was his duty to watch over the boy, just as he had done with Elena. One afternoon, as the family sat together in the living room, Aiden turned to his father, Marcus, and said something that made him pause. "Daddy, Rex wants to take us to Henry's house," Aiden said matter-of-factly, his eyes wide and serious. Marcus raised an eyebrow. "Henry's house? Why would Rex want to go there?" Aiden's small hand reached out, gently stroking Rex's fur. "Because there's something there he's supposed to show us. It's really important. Rex knows." Marcus exchanged a skeptical glance with Elena, but Aiden's conviction was undeniable. The boy had been right about everything so far, from Rex's history to the secret he was guarding. Despite his doubt, Marcus couldn't shake the feeling that they were meant to follow Aiden's lead. The next morning, Marcus and Elena decided to follow Aiden's suggestion. They drove to the address that the shelter had given them, Henry Walker's old house. It was an aging cottage at the edge of town, tucked behind thick trees and surrounded by overgrown grass. The once quaint house now looked abandoned, its windows dark and uninviting. Aiden was the first to step out of the car, Rex following closely behind him. The dog's tail wagged slightly, and his eyes scanned the surroundings, as if he recognized the place. Aiden looked up at Marcus and Elena. "This is it," Aiden said, his voice low but filled with purpose. "This is where Rex needs to be." They slowly made their way up the creaky steps to the front door. Marcus hesitated before knocking, wondering if anyone still lived here. There was no answer, so he gently pushed the door open. It creaked loudly, revealing a dark and musty interior. "Let's look around," Marcus suggested, his voice steady. "Maybe there's something here that explains everything." As they stepped inside, the house felt colder, almost as though it had been waiting for them. The air smelled of dust and old wood. Aiden moved forward, his small hand resting lightly on Rex's back. The dog sniffed the air, his ears alert. Aiden led them deeper into the house, his footsteps light and cautious. They reached the living room, where old furniture was covered with white sheets, the remnants of a forgotten life. Aiden stopped in front of a fireplace, where something caught his eye. "Here, Daddy." "Rex knows," Aiden said, pointing toward the hearth. "There's something hidden here." Marcus knelt down, brushing aside the dust and debris. His hand traced the edges of the old fireplace, and with a grunt, he managed to dislodge a loose stone. Beneath it, hidden in a small compartment, was an old, weathered box. Elena gasped, her hand flying to her mouth. "What is it?" Marcus opened the box, revealing a stack of yellowed papers and old photographs. The photographs showed a much younger Henry Walker, wearing military uniforms and posing with other soldiers. There were letters too, some with faded ink, others with secretive notations. As Marcus began to read the documents, his face grew pale. This is a war journal," Marcus murmured. "Henry must have been involved in something bigger than we realized." Aiden's voice broke through the silence. He was trying to stop something bad. He didn't want anyone to get hurt. As Marcus flipped through the pages, his heart began to race. The documents revealed that Henry had been part of a covert operation during his military service, an operation that had gone wrong. The mission had been abandoned, and the criminals involved had been left to continue their illegal activities. But Henry had not forgotten. He had spent his remaining years trying to gather evidence, collecting information that could expose the operation and its perpetrators. As the family continued to search the house, they heard the sound of footsteps outside. At first, they thought it was just the wind, but then the door creaked open, and a man stepped inside. The man was tall and wiry, his face obscured by a hood. His eyes flicked nervously around the room, settling on the Turner family. Rex's growl was low but menacing. His hackles raised as he positioned himself in front of Aiden. "Who are you?" Marcus demanded, stepping in front of Elena and Aiden. The man hesitated, his hand reaching for something hidden beneath his jacket. "I could ask the same of you," he said, his voice gravelly. "But it seems you found what you weren't supposed to." Aiden stepped forward, his eyes narrowing. "Rex was protecting us," he said firmly. "He won't let you hurt us." Marcus looked at Aiden, his heart racing. The man was dangerous, but Rex stood firm, as if daring the man to make a move. The tension was thick, and the air seemed to hold its breath. Without warning, the man lunged forward, but Rex was faster. The dog's sharp teeth caught the man's arm, making him cry out in pain. Marcus immediately stepped forward, pushing the man back. "Get away from my family," Marcus shouted. In the commotion, the man dropped a small object onto the floor. It was a key that, when examined closely, matched the description of one that would open Henry's old safe. The man, realizing he was outmatched, turned and bolted out the door, disappearing into the stormy night. As the adrenaline began to fade, the family gathered around the key and the documents they had found. Aiden's eyes were wide with realization. This key, it opened something hidden, something important. Marcus nodded, his mind racing. "We need to find out what it opens. Whatever Henry was trying to protect, it's not over yet." They left the house, determined to unravel the mystery Henry had left behind, knowing that Rex had not only brought them here for a reason, but had also given them a vital clue that would change everything. The storm that had once seemed so distant now felt like it was closing in on the Turner family. The darkness of the night wrapped around them as they sat in the car, clutching the key and the documents they had uncovered from Henry Walker's old house. It was clear now, this wasn't just about a dog named Rex. It was about something bigger, something dangerous. And the mysterious man they'd encountered was just the beginning. As they drove back home, Marcus glanced at Aiden in the rearview mirror. The boy was unusually quiet, his eyes staring out the window as the wind whipped against the car. "Do you think Rex knows what this key opens?" Marcus asked, trying to fill the silence with something comforting. Aiden nodded without turning around. "Yes, Daddy. He knows. He's here to help us find the truth." His voice was calm, yet there was an underlying tension that Marcus couldn't ignore. Elena's gaze flicked nervously toward the back seat, where Rex lay beside Aiden, his eyes alert and watchful. The dog seemed to sense that something was off. His ears perked up in response to every passing shadow outside the car. Suddenly, the quiet was shattered by the sound of a car revving behind them. Marcus's grip tightened on the steering wheel as the car sped up, dangerously close. "Who the hell is that?" Marcus muttered under his breath. Before he could react, the car slammed into theirs, jolting the Turner family forward. Rex immediately sprang into action, growling fiercely. Aiden gasped, his hand grabbing the dog's fur as if to hold him back. "Hold on, Aiden," Marcus shouted, swerving the car to avoid another collision. His heart was racing as he desperately tried to maintain control of the vehicle. The car behind them followed relentlessly, pushing them closer to the edge of the road. The family had barely realized what was happening before a second car appeared in front of them, blocking their path. A man emerged from the driver's side, his face grim and cold. It was the same man who had confronted them at Henry's house. "Get out of the car," the man commanded, his voice low and menacing. "Why are you doing this?" Elena demanded, her heart pounding in her chest. "What do you want from us?" The man sneered. "You have something that belongs to us, the key, and the documents. We've been searching for them for years." Marcus's eyes darted to the rearview mirror, seeing that the other car had now surrounded them. There was no way out. Aiden's voice cut through the tension like a knife. "Rex won't let you hurt us." The man's eyes narrowed. "We'll see about that," he sneered, taking a step toward the car. But before anyone could react, Rex lunged. With a fierce growl, the dog sprang through the open window, knocking the man back with surprising strength. The man stumbled, falling backward into the mud with a yell. Marcus quickly took advantage of the distraction, slamming the car into reverse. He pressed the gas pedal to the floor, sending the car skidding backward into the other vehicle. The force of the collision made the second car rock, and the attackers stumbled in surprise. "Get back in the car. Now!" Marcus shouted, his voice desperate. Elena didn't hesitate. She yanked Aiden toward her, pulling him into the back seat. As Marcus slammed the car into drive, they sped off, tires screeching against the rain-slicked road. The man they had encountered, one of the criminals after the documents, had been knocked down, but they knew he wouldn't stay down for long. Rex, growling low, remained watchful, his eyes darting to the rearview mirror, as if sensing that this wasn't over. After the frightening encounter on the road, the Turner family made their way home in a hurried silence, the adrenaline still coursing through their veins. Marcus parked the car quickly, his eyes scanning the street for any signs of danger. He didn't know who the people after them were, but he was certain of one thing. Rex was not just any dog. He was the key to protecting his family. As they entered the house, Marcus turned to Elena. "We need to call the police, but we can't risk leaving this place. They'll come after us again." Elena nodded, her hands shaking as she clutched Aiden to her. "What do we do now?" Before Marcus could respond, a low, threatening growl from Rex silenced the room. The dog stood by the door, his body tense, his eyes fixed on something outside. The sound of footsteps approaching the house grew louder. "They're here," Marcus whispered, his heart pounding. Aiden's hand found Rex's fur again. "He's not scared," Aiden said quietly, looking up at his parents. "Rex is ready." Marcus nodded, feeling both awe and fear. He knew the dog had been guarding them for a reason, and now it seemed that reason was about to be tested. The door suddenly burst open, and the same man who had chased them earlier stepped inside, a gun in his hand. Behind him, 2 more men followed, all with menacing expressions. "Give us the key and the documents," the man said, his voice cold and threatening. Marcus stepped forward, his fists clenched. "You'll have to go through me first." But Rex was faster. With a sudden, bone-chilling growl, the dog lunged at the man with the gun. The attacker didn't have time to react before Rex's teeth sank into his arm, knocking the gun from his hand. The man screamed in pain, stumbling backward. Aiden's voice rang out from the corner.
"Rex, no."
But his tone was firm, not afraid. The dog immediately released his grip, standing between the attackers and the Turner family, his body a barrier of protection. Rex's deep growl was a warning, one that sent chills down the spine of everyone in the room. The two other men hesitated, not daring to move forward. The man Rex had bitten scrambled to his feet, clutching his arm as he glared at Marcus. "This is your last chance," the man sneered. "Hand over the documents, or we'll make you regret it." Marcus stood his ground, his back straight and his eyes locked on the attackers. "You'll have to kill us first, and Rex won't let you." Rex, as if on cue, growled again, his stance unwavering. The man with the gun nodded to his companions, signaling them to leave. They backed away slowly, clearly realizing they were no match for the dog. "You're making a mistake," the lead man said, spitting on the floor as he backed toward the door. "You're the ones making a mistake," Marcus retorted, his voice steady but filled with anger. With a final threatening look, the men turned and fled. The door slammed shut behind them, and the family stood in silence, each of them breathing heavily as the adrenaline slowly ebbed away. Aiden walked over to Rex, kneeling beside him. "You saved us again," Aiden said, his voice full of gratitude and admiration. Rex nudged the boy gently with his nose, as if to say, "It was my job." Marcus and Elena stood together, watching the exchange, their hearts full of awe. They knew more than ever that Rex was not just a dog. He was their protector, their hero. After the attackers had left, the family sat down together, the house still trembling from the intensity of the encounter. Rex sat by Aiden's side, as always, his head resting on the boy's lap. Marcus picked up the key they had found earlier. "We can't keep running from this," he said, his voice resolute. "We need to find out what Henry left behind. Whatever it is, it's too important for us to ignore." Aiden nodded. "Rex knows. He'll help us." And in that moment, they realized that the mystery wasn't just about Henry or the documents. It was about Rex. He had been chosen to protect them, and it was clear that his mission was far from over. Days passed, and the Turner family tried to resume their lives, but the shadow of the danger they had faced lingered. They knew they weren't safe yet. The people chasing them hadn't given up, and Rex had been their protector, the one thing standing between them and those who meant them harm. But as the days wore on, they began to notice something troubling. Rex, despite his valiant defense and unwavering loyalty, was slowing down. Started small. At first, Marcus noticed the dog seemed to be moving more cautiously, his steps a little slower. Then one morning, Elena found Rex lying by the door, panting heavily as though he had just run a marathon. "Rex," Elena called out, kneeling beside the dog. "What's wrong, boy?" Rex lifted his head slowly, his eyes meeting hers, but he didn't rise. There was a certain weariness in his gaze, one that Elena had never seen before. "Daddy, come quick!" Elena shouted, panic rising in her voice. Marcus rushed to her side. "What's going on?" he asked, kneeling next to Rex, who still lay quietly, his breathing shallow. "I think he's getting worse," Elena whispered, her eyes filling with tears. "He's been through so much." Aiden stood in the doorway, his hand resting on the frame as he watched the scene unfold. He had noticed the change in Rex too. The dog no longer followed him around with the same energy, his once vibrant eyes now dimming with exhaustion. "Rex is old now," Aiden said softly, his voice betraying a quiet sadness. "He's been protecting us for a long time. He's tired." Marcus looked up at Aiden, a tight knot forming in his chest. He had always seen Rex as a guardian, a fierce protector of his family. But now, seeing the dog so fragile, he realized that even the strongest beings could not fight time. "We have to take him to the vet," Elena said, her voice shaky. But Marcus shook his head. "He's not just tired. He's sick. I can see it in his eyes." The next few days were filled with quiet moments, as the Turner family watched over Rex. They made him comfortable on a soft blanket in front of the fireplace, where the warmth seemed to soothe his aching body. Aiden never left his side, talking to him softly, telling him stories, and stroking his fur. "Don't worry, Rex," Aiden whispered one evening, his voice full of hope. "You've done your job. You don't have to protect us anymore." But Rex's eyes remained dim, his body weak. The dog who had once been so full of life, who had bravely defended the family against impossible odds, now seemed so fragile. It was as though he had given everything he had, and now it was time for him to rest. As the days passed, Marcus and Elena started to prepare themselves for the inevitable. They spoke little of it, but the weight of the truth hung heavy in the air. They knew Rex had done more for them than they could ever repay. Then, one quiet afternoon, Rex let out a long sigh, his eyes drifting closed. His breathing slowed, and for a moment, it seemed as though he had fallen asleep. Aiden was sitting next to him, his hand gently resting on Rex's head, just as he had done every day. But this time, when Aiden spoke, there was a finality to his voice. "It's okay, Rex," Aiden whispered, tears welling in his eyes. "You can go now. You did what you needed to do." Rex's tail gave one final, faint wag before it stilled, and his breathing stopped altogether. Aiden's heart broke in that instant, the finality of Rex's passing settling heavily in his chest. "Rex," Aiden whispered, his voice trembling. "Thank you for everything." Elena held Aiden tightly, tears streaming down her face. Marcus stood by, his eyes misted with grief. Rex, the loyal protector, was gone. And in that moment, the Turner family felt an emptiness that nothing could fill. The family buried Rex in the backyard, just beneath the oak tree that Rex had often slept under. They laid him to rest with the respect and gratitude he deserved, knowing that he had saved them in ways they could never fully understand. After the burial, Aiden stood at the grave, his small hand resting on the stone that marked Rex's final resting place. "Rex didn't just protect us," Aiden said softly, his voice steady despite the tears in his eyes. "He showed us what it means to care for someone, to be loyal, and to never give up." Marcus and Elena stood beside their son, their hearts heavy but filled with a quiet appreciation for the dog who had changed their lives forever. "You're right, Aiden," Marcus said, his voice thick with emotion. "Rex wasn't just a dog. He was our family, and we'll never forget what he did for us." In the days that followed, the Turner family slowly began to heal. They knew that Rex had given them more than just protection. He had taught them the value of love, loyalty, and the importance of standing together in the face of danger. One afternoon, months later, Aiden's curiosity led the family to a local shelter. Elena and Marcus had agreed to visit, but they hadn't expected to find what they did. As they walked through the aisles, Aiden's attention was suddenly drawn to a small, timid German shepherd puppy in the back corner. The puppy was curled up in a ball, his eyes wide with uncertainty. Aiden felt a strange connection to him, just as he had with Rex. "Mommy, Daddy, look," Aiden whispered, pointing toward the puppy. "I think Rex sent him." Elena knelt down beside her son, looking at the shy little dog. "What do you mean, sweetheart?" Aiden gently approached the puppy, his small hand extended in peace. The puppy hesitated for a moment before finally walking into Aiden's arms, resting his head against the boy's chest. "He's going to protect us now," Aiden said softly, a tear slipping down his cheek, "just like Rex did." Marcus and Elena stood silently, watching the scene unfold. They could see it too, the same spark of connection, the same sense of peace that had filled their hearts when Rex had first arrived at their doorstep. As they left the shelter with the new puppy, Aiden whispered a quiet promise to the dog in his arms. "Rex is teaching you how to protect us." The wind outside rustled through the trees, and for a moment, it almost sounded like a bark. A soft, comforting sound that made the Turner family smile through their tears. And so, they returned home, not just as a family of three, but with the new addition to their home, a small puppy who, in his own way, would continue Rex's legacy of protection, love, and loyalty. After weeks of mourning, the Turner family had begun to settle into a quieter life, one where the absence of Rex left a deep, unspoken hole. Aiden, though young, had taken his loss with a wisdom beyond his years. He spent many hours by Rex's grave, whispering to the ground as though sharing secrets with the dog who had protected them so fiercely. But there was a sense of peace now, one that had settled over the family, like a comforting presence. Then came the day they visited the shelter, and in a quiet corner they found the puppy. Aiden's gentle approach, his soft words, and the way the puppy, despite his timidity, slowly warmed to him, was enough to reassure the family that this new addition was meant to be. They named the puppy Shadow, a name that somehow felt right. He wasn't just any dog. He was the continuation of Rex's legacy, the next protector for the Turner family. It didn't take long for Shadow to find his place in the Turner household. He followed Aiden everywhere, his small, eager paws skittering along the floor as if he were trying to catch up to a destiny he had just begun to understand. At first, Shadow was shy, often curling up in corners or hiding behind furniture. But Aiden was patient. He spoke softly to him, just as he had with Rex. "Don't be scared, Shadow," Aiden whispered one evening, sitting next to the puppy as he cautiously sniffed around the living room. "You're part of our family now. You don't have to hide anymore." Slowly but surely, Shadow came out of his shell. Aiden began taking him on short walks, teaching him commands and playing games. The little dog began to grow stronger, more confident, and the bond between him and Aiden only deepened. The family couldn't help but notice how familiar it felt. Shadow's movements seemed to mirror Rex's in subtle ways, his watchful eyes always scanning the area, his head turning at the slightest noise. It was as though Rex's spirit lived on in this small puppy. One evening, as the family sat together around the dinner table, a quiet breeze stirred the air, rustling the leaves outside the window. Aiden, who had been playing with Shadow near the back door, paused and looked up toward the sound. For a moment, he thought he heard a faint, familiar sound, a soft bark carried on the wind. His heart skipped a beat. "Mom, did you hear that?" Aiden asked, his voice low with a strange kind of wonder. Elena paused, glancing toward the window, but all she could hear was the wind. "What do you mean, Aiden?" she asked gently. Aiden's gaze remained fixed on the door, his heart fluttering. "I heard it. I swear I heard Rex. I think he's still with us." Marcus turned to Aiden, a warm smile tugging at his lips. "Rex will always be with us, buddy. In here." He placed his hand over his heart, and Aiden nodded, understanding his father's unspoken words. Maybe he's teaching Shadow how to protect us," Aiden whispered, a tear slipping from his eye as he held Shadow close. The puppy, sensing the shift in energy, nuzzled his face against Aiden's chest. The wind rustled through the trees again, and for a fleeting moment, Aiden thought he saw something. Just a flicker in the shadows, an image of Rex standing nearby, watching over them. It was a brief vision, but it brought a sense of peace that washed over him. He closed his eyes for a moment, inhaling deeply, and when he opened them again, he felt lighter. Rex's spirit, the love and protection he had given, would never truly leave them. In the weeks that followed, the Turner family began to feel as though the weight of their past struggles was easing. With Shadow by their side, they knew that Rex's legacy of protection and loyalty was far from over. The family's life had settled into a new rhythm. Aiden continued to grow, learning not just from the world around him but also from the lessons that Rex had taught him. He understood the value of protecting those he loved, the importance of standing strong even in the face of adversity. And now, with Shadow, Aiden had a new companion, one who would help him carry that legacy forward. One evening, as Aiden lay on the couch, Shadow curled up at his feet, Marcus and Elena sat together, watching their son and the puppy. There was a sense of calm in the air, the kind that only time, healing, and love could bring. "Do you think we'll ever stop feeling like Rex is with us?" Elena asked, her voice soft, almost as if she were afraid of the answer. Marcus thought for a moment, his eyes never leaving Aiden and Shadow. "No, I don't think we will. I think Rex will always be with us, guiding us, protecting us, just like he promised." Later that night, Aiden stood at the back door, looking out into the yard. The moon hung high in the sky, casting a soft glow on everything it touched. Shadow stood next to him, his small body firm and alert, his ears perked at the slightest sound. "I'll protect you," Aiden whispered to the dog, his heart full of love, "just like Rex did for us." Shadow's tail gave a gentle wag, and Aiden smiled, running his hand through the dog's fur. The night was still, but the air around them seemed to hum with a quiet promise. The promise that, no matter what challenges lay ahead, the Turner family would never face them alone. Rex's spirit had passed the torch to Shadow, and now it was Shadow's turn to watch over the family. As Aiden stepped back into the house, he turned once more to look out into the darkened yard. For a brief moment, he swore he could hear the faintest bark carried by the wind.
A soft, familiar bark.
The sound of protection, the sound of love. The story of Rex and the Turner family had come full circle. Rex had done his part, but now it was Shadow's turn to protect the family, to continue the legacy of the German Shepherd who had given everything for them. And so, in the quiet of the night, the circle of protection remained unbroken. The story of Rex and the Turner family is one of love, loyalty, and the unspoken bond between a dog and the family he chose to protect. It's a tale that reminds us that even in loss, there can be hope, and that love transcends time and space. Rex's mission had been completed, but in the heart of a small puppy named Shadow, his spirit lived on. The family would never forget what Rex had done for them. And as Aiden grew older, he carried Rex's legacy with him, teaching others the value of loyalty, protection, and the power of love. Rex had come to them as a protector, and though his physical form was gone, his love would live forever in their hearts, guiding them through every storm and every challenge life brought their way. And so, the story ended not with the sound of a bark fading into the wind, but with the certainty that the legacy of a German Shepherd's protection, loyalty, and love would continue for generations to come. This story highlights the powerful bond between humans and animals, emphasizing how deep connections can transcend time and space. The loyalty, courage, and selflessness shown by Rex, the German Shepherd, reveal how animals often become more than pets. They are protectors, companions, and symbols of unconditional love. Through the Turner family's journey, the story explores themes of trust, sacrifice, and the healing power of love. The story teaches us that love and loyalty are timeless. Whether it's through a pet or a loved one, true protectors are those who stand by us in our darkest moments, offering support and safety when we need it most. Just as Rex's legacy continues through Shadow, we learn that kindness, courage, and the bond we share with others can live on, long after we're gone. If you've been touched by this beautiful story of loyalty and love, please give this video a thumbs up, leave a comment, and share your thoughts with us. We'd love to hear how this story resonates with you. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel so you never miss out on more heartwarming stories like this one. Every like, comment, and share is a huge encouragement for us to keep creating content that inspires and moves you. Thank you so much for watching. We truly appreciate your support. Until next time, take care and remember, love and loyalty are the true protectors of the heart. See you in the next video.